You should do your beatbox.
Hello and welcome to the Mull It Over podcast with the Dr. Richard Mull and the
Other Mull.
other Mull.
The other
I was trying to
Mull.
think what's the best way to introduce you.
I like the other Mull.
The oldest son and the middle son.
The middle son. The middle Mull.
Middle Mull.
I double M.
I did repost recently the top 10 reasons.
Oh, why?
I found it.
That's that video is
thought I had it
evergreen.
unlisted.
That video is evergreen, man. It never gets old. Never goes out of style.
Oh, it does.
Nope.
Very much.
The hairstyles are...
The aviators.
I look like such a... Okay, I'm 18 in that video.
Yeah.
Or 17 or 18.
No.
I look like a baby.
Yeah, you do.
And so when people say that I look like
I
I'm
mean,
18,
you look like you're 18 now.
I know,
so.
but when people say I look like I'm 18 now, I'm like, that's a child. You think I look like that?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I feel kind of weird.
I
No,
was guessing a lot younger than... But...
no, I know. Well, I'm wearing my senior shirt,
Oh, that's
my
right.
so I'm at
yeah.
least a senior
Yeah.
in high school, minimum
gosh.
17.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's getting posted again.
Oh man.
That'll be posted in the comments section.
Well, today we're joined by the missionary pilot, world traveling
Preacher
Other
and
Mull.
other continents.
author,
Author.
And soon to be...
mechanic.
Dad!
Yep.
Woo! Soon, well, you are the author, but it's soon to be launched.
Yes.
And
Official.
and
Self-published author.
yeah, so I've been introducing myself with, because I'm not
Yeah.
big on titles. I've been
why I
blessed
introduced
by
you as
people giving me titles.
Doctor.
Doctor,
You guys
every
call me
time.
doctor and different
Doctor.
stuff.
Doctor.
And I got invited to be an apostle different places, and you can't find that on my business cards or my websites or anything like that. But I said
We can't
I
find
said,
your
Yeah, I was about to say,
cards.
we can't hardly find your business cards.
my website nowhere. Just because titles are often misunderstood, but there's a title that I have just come to embrace, and that's how I want to be known, as Grandpa or
Grandpapa.
Yep.
Grandpapa.
And just excited. We got 2 on the way. Thank you guys. for
You're
doing your part.
welcome. Yes. Yes.
And 2 amazing young grandkids. We had them on the podcast here one
Did you hear
time.
that? Did you see that episode?
I did. I was on Facebook that day and I saw it live and I was like, this should be entertaining.
Oh
Oh
man.
my goodness. I've been recording a lot of the miracle stories lately, and I kind of almost thought it would be amazing to tell Papa stories, like tell them like I'm telling them to my grandkids, but
That would be a pretty cool kids show. You doing a Bible story and then also sharing testimonies with all your grandkids around.
Yeah.
We could
If
make.
only they could sit still long enough.
We'll give them goldfish and.
It'll be like a new version of the kid snippets. Have you guys seen that on YouTube? So these parents, they have their kids tell a story,
Uh-huh.
and then the
they
parents act it
Oh,
out.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I love
Yeah.
that.
So
It's like kid history. Is that what? Is that
It's kid snippets, I
kid
think.
snippets? Okay,
Yeah, pretty sure it's kid snippets.
that would be fun.
Yeah.
If we let Asher tell stories.
Or you could tell your testimony stories to Asher and then have him retell your testimony
oh
stories.
My goodness, yes,
Yikes.
That would be fun.
Oh man.
yes. Although he would probably get it.
He would.
Detailed.
He
Yeah.
either would get it detail for detail, or it would be like just completely
Or
out of
saggy
it.
britches and droopy drawers would end up in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I am the rich man. That is the title of your
That's
book.
the title of the
and
book.
it didn't hit me until yesterday. I am the rich man north of Richmond, which
Yeah.
has no correlation to your book.
I had this title chosen before that song came out. So,
It would have been a great time to launch.
I would have. Right when that was skyrocketing.
That would have been
Because it would have
amazing.
come up on everyone's searches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I am the rich man.
Yep.
I was thinking through because I've read the book and it's amazing and we're looking forward to hearing more about it and talking some about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking like the Republican convention, I think it was, actually played that song at one of their conventions and he goes, I'm talking about those guys,
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
and I am the rich man is kind of like that. You're
Yeah.
identifying with the rich man and going, he is us. We
Yeah.
are him.
Yeah.
He would have been the elder chosen in most churches, and
He's the
chairman of the
dude that
elders.
I've always thought would be the guy to be.
yeah,
You know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very interesting. So
So-
right now helping 12 people write their books. It's really exciting, man.
Yeah.
I just like it's amazing. We'll be talking more about that in days ahead. And I
I'm
didn't get to be
I'm personally most excited about Coco's book idea.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Two. She got two
She's got two.
simultaneously.
The one helping churches work with like special needs kids.
that'd be
I'm
amazing.
so
Just
excited
amazing.
about that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
gonna be phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's some of them like that one's a real need
Oh yeah.
that most churches
Yeah.
are not even aware of. It's
Churches,
not a
Oh
felt-
no,
Schools,
no, they're
anywhere.
aware of.
Some are.
Yeah.
Bigger churches are 'cause
Aware of but not equipped.
No, they
a lot of them are overwhelmed with working with kids.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if someone launched a church just for special needs families.
Oh man, you'd have that filled. Quick.
I wonder-
as long as it had people who were trained
would-
to.
Well, like if you have a church where if it's all the parents, and it's like, hey, you all come 3 times a month,
Yeah.
and 1 time a month you have to volunteer. They're all trained and equipped in how to handle special needs kids. Like,
Yeah, that would be interesting.
It's-
Except for there's another pastor with a special needs son, and between the two of us, we've had multiple incidents where our children came in unclothed. And can you imagine?
But
a
if
whole
it-
church. Wow, he did it. Let me do it too.
okay.
And then people look at you and
Hold
like,
on.
what kind of parent is this? And I go, we got it kind of right a few times
Yeah.
before this. Oh my gosh.
Well, I think that you'd have people trained in how to handle
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
could
Yeah,
be
I think it'd be great. I think it'd be awesome.
We
that
navigated-
community needs.
3% of people with special needs go to
Oh
church.
yeah.
3% in the United States. 3% of families with special needs kids go to church.
Yeah, because you can't bring your special needs kids to a lot of churches. No,
Yeah.
it's a need.
Huge.
Big time.
Yeah. The other one she's writing to is pretty exciting because it's overcoming the victim spirit, but
Yeah.
it's becoming an overcomer. It's from
Yeah.
the vantage point
Yeah.
of how do you become an overcomer rather than focusing
Yeah.
on the victim mentality, victim spirit, which is huge. It's,
Yeah, you guys are gonna have some really great books coming out of this.
Yeah, it's exciting.
For those of you who are listening and aren't sure, we're doing a master class. So we have our online school university that anyone can sign up for, but we have a master class that we're taking 12 students through 12.
Yep.
Just
12.
12. Yeah.
And they're getting like a lot of one-on-one time with Papa Mole and
Doctor.
Dr. Papa Mole.
Doctor.
He's wearing a blue shirt, so I said Papa, and the first thing that popped in my head was Papa Smurf. But I don't know why. But they have access to him. They're writing books together. They're marketing each
Yeah.
other's books. They're growing this community. They're teaching how to make disciples. So it's
Yeah.
not just writing a book. It's how do you create a following? How do you disciple those people? How do you equip people to act, think, and be like Jesus? And so,
Yeah.
there's currently no availability this year.
That's
You have to
right.
wait. You have to wait a year if you're interested.
Yeah, we'll be
Yep.
creating the website. We never created a website. We didn't have
Yeah.
I created just an explanation of what the class is that I hand to people so that, because it's one thing to hear, it's another thing to kind of look it over.
Yeah.
People that prayed over it, and probably only offered it to 20 some people, and we have 12. And it's interesting because I've wondered how many people did Jesus approach about following him that didn't end up in the book, because
Ooh.
I never processed that
Yeah.
before. I was like, you got the 12 that said yes.
I mean, at least one more.
Yeah. Yeah, one came up and was
Or
like,
about being an apostle, one of his disciples. 'cause-
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the call was too high. It was the cost was too great.
Yep.
And that's
Talk about
it.
this
It is interesting because as I was pondering this, there was a couple people that even told me the Lord told me to, but I don't have time now,
Yeah.
or I don't have the money, or whatever that is. And I was thinking, man, one of them, the verbiage they used, and I believe in all these people, so like these are like,
Yeah.
but I was like going, one of them, it was almost exactly like one of the passages of scripture. I don't remember which one, where it was like,
Did they say, I just got a field of
funeral,
cattle?
I gotta go bury
Field of
someone.
cattle.
Field of cattle? And I must.
I gotta go bury someone. And
Okay.
Jesus said, "Let the dead bury the dead." It was like,
Yeah.
that was part of their picture of what was going on, and I was like, "Wow, like that is weird." That I just read that, was just studying that.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're studying all the passages on being a disciple, and I'm seeing it from a whole new lens. Like I've done this many times,
Yeah.
because 12 of the disciples were called apostles, and I see a huge relationship between disciples and the apostles.
Yeah.
The disciples would honor the apostles. The apostles came in and would put things in order, And even they would come in, and the elders who were shepherding the disciples submitted to the apostles. And I'm not here to change church structure. I'm not here to set, because so much of it is considered hierarchical. But I'm just trying to look at the Word of God, and I'm going, when the apostles came into town, it was like, stop the show. What do you guys see? What do we need to get in line? And elders and disciples. And then when it was like, Paul is like, I'm going to Jerusalem, and they have a prophet say, whoever wears his belt's going to be two different times. The disciples wept, prayed for him, begged him not to go because they cared for him. There was such an amazing relationship between disciples.
I think we see that in other countries even today. Like, I think when we've gone overseas, that's kind of the way that you see church structure in pretty much everywhere besides maybe the United States, maybe some places in Europe.
Apostolic leaders.
Yeah. That's kind of the way it's built in the rest of the world.
And I think it's funny. I hear a lot of people say, like, I want an Acts 2 type of church. And I think, like, legitimately one of the factors that you need to be an Acts 2 looking church is to be like a persecuted minority, because they were persecuted minorities. So they really, like, there were external factors saying, we have to band together. We have to stick very close. We have to share our resources with one another. And I mean, that's like, there are historians who have said Christianity is what ended up taking down Rome, because like they kept caring for all the people that Rome was just like, we don't want anything to do with them. We're tossing our babies out in the street because we don't want more babies. And the Christians are taking them, and just seeing the compassion and care that the Christians had and the community that the Christians had caused a lot of people to like change their value system in Roman society, and ended up.
So we just finished a 10-day tour.
Road trip
Together. That was really cool. And one of the things that I kept thinking, man, I wish I had a camera on now, because some of our discussion was so rich and amazing. I was like, this would be podcast material, and I really value the depth of study that you put into the Word of God, and you've been wrenching on planes for years, up in Dunellen and down here
and Zephyr Hills,
and I don't get to see that, and just to see your spiritual growth and depth and stuff like that has been awesome. So tell us about I Am the Rich Man.
So this book like came out of my own time in study of the Word and time in prayer. I was reading through the Bible, and I came across the passage of Jesus interacting with the rich young ruler, which is in 3 of the Gospels. It's in Matthew. It's in, I don't remember which the other 2.
I would guess Luke and John.
Yeah, it's probably Luke and John. Yeah.
I will Google while you keep talking.
Awesome. I know, like, I feel like I should be the subject matter expert on this, but so I came across that story, and it just stuck out to me. I was like, okay, who is this guy? He doesn't have a name. There's not a lot of personality. It's a pretty brief interaction, but I was just like, I don't know when it describes him as a rich young ruler. I was like, I don't really know what those mean in the context that they're being described in. So like, is rich like upper middle class? Is it like he's just a business owner, or is it like he's the owner of a Google or a Facebook? Like, is it like
Mark Zuckerberg?
Yeah, is it like stupid rich, or is it like, wealthy, or is it like well off? Because Jesus is mostly traveling with and spending the majority of his time with the least of these. There are definitely some stories where he's with, the tax collectors and the wealthy, eating in their houses, but like the majority of its time he is with like the lowly. So it's like, is this guy like tax collector status? Because those guys would have been wealthier. So I was like, I don't know what that means, or what his life would have looked like because of that wealth. Young, like, is that like he's a teenager? Is it like he's 20? Like, what is young in that context? Relative. It is very relative. Yeah.
I'm still young.
Yeah.
Could be 60.
Mm-hmm. He at least imagines himself as
I
still young.
am. There's power in the tongue.
Can you be grandpapa and young?
Yes. I actually, I'll picture this way.
Oh, no.
When it talks about the 72, I thank you, Lord, that you hid these things from the wise and learned, and you revealed them even to little children. I had a great aunt who was 92, and when she came out of her Sunday school class one day, she goes, "I hope when I get old, I'm not like those ladies."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think their youth is not completely age related. I
Yeah.
believe that there is a component of it where there are people that my grandmother used to jump rope with us when we were little,
Well,
and I could jump rope. So I'm like,
can
I
jump
could
rope.
be that grandpa.
I
you
can
know?
barely jump rope, so
I even beat someone in a push-up contest recently that was much younger than me.
so continue. Sorry.
okay. So yeah, I'm like, I don't know what these factors describe. And when it says ruler, I'm like, I have no idea what that means. Like, is this guy like
Roman.
a Roman? Yeah, like what do any of these mean? What does this guy's life look like? So I started doing, at first it's like very light research of like, what do commentaries say about this guy? And it ended up being just a very fun research
You type
experience
really
for me.
interestingly.
Yeah. Actually, I type more like this. I'm a
Yeah.
hunt and pecker.
I've been impressed by some people that do that, and I'm like, that do it fast.
Uh-huh.
That's crazy.
I don't.
So yeah, I started to do just research. What does this guy's life look like? And that kind of led me to the point of seeing him as what I thought was like an ideal in my own mind of someone who is, he was very wealthy. I was reading a paper out of Hebrew University describing like, okay, when it says you are rich, like that language refers to like 1%ers, like very wealthy people who owned like large amounts of land. So I'm like, okay, this guy would have been, if I could put it into a local Florida, like middle Florida context, this guy's from like the Publix family, people that started Publix, he would have been like a part of that family.
Okay.
So like, he's got lots of money. He's got lots of
Publix money.
resources. Yeah, he's got Publix money. So I was like, okay, this guy is, he is what a lot of people want to be as far as like resources and financial affluence are concerned. When it says young, that was probably the hardest one. Nobody has like
A good guess.
a legitimate consensus other than like for where he was at in life, it was before he should have been there. So kind of like if you meet a 60-year-old who's a millionaire who's started a business and built it over time, it's like, well done, sir. But you're not like, whoa, that guy's a millionaire. But if you see like
A billionaire.
an 18-year-old kid who's just made, like if you see Mr. Beast,
Oh yeah.
like that's like, you have that much money and you're how old? Like the contrast stands out. So
If you don't know who Mr. Beast is,
Yeah.
go on YouTube. Search Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
Spiritually enriching.
So
He has a
so
philanthropy channel. Continue.
it basically is a philanthropy channel.
No, yeah. Oh yeah, I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and then when like ruler was very interesting because the only other time that descriptor is used for people is when they basically like run a synagogue. So it's like, okay, so this guy is religiously very involved. He is financially affluent and he has gotten there really early in life. And I'm like, isn't that the ideal? Like-
Sounds good to me.
Like, isn't that the thing that we're all like, is like the Western Christian evangelical idea of?
That means you're blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that means the Lord's hand is on you and you can do no wrong. And it's like, yeah, your word is gospel at that point. So just seeing that, I was like, and he went away sad because he couldn't have the kingdom. I was like, okay, so whatever are things that I'm really valuing that this guy was also valuing are either antithetical to or just like incongruous with the gospel and the kingdom. So that kind of led me down a what would it look like to start getting it more right, and specifically like what are characteristics in the Christian life that I feel like have been forgotten in the context in which I'm living in the South, the U.S., in the evangelical church of today, and so I hit several of those topics going through the book.
Tell me what some of those topics are.
So those topics, and I'm going to reference it now so that, like the last time I was on and I gave the complete wrong reference, scriptural reference. I think that was the last time I was on. I gave...
What happened?
So I was like, I was talking about Deuteronomy and how it has like some very incredible teachings on how we should run society financially. And I threw out Deuteronomy 25 as like the ideal for how society should be structured. And that happens to be the passage that's all about if your brother does not bear a child with his wife and your brother dies, then you must bear a child with his wife.
Yeah.
Which,
Offended
oddly
Andrew
enough,
greatly.
that yeah. I got a text. He's like, "What are you trying to do?" So, and it was supposed to be Deuteronomy 15. It's supposed to be 15,
So close.
and I went 25.
So close.
It was close.
Oh, I do that.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
So,
Sometimes.
yeah. I thankfully have caught a couple in this book. I reference a lot of verses, and I'm sure I've still got some wrong
Oh no.
when it's just the reference and not the actual verse with it.
Word of advice
But-
from someone who's signed a bunch of books.
Uh,
I have a verse that I know what it is, and I don't deviate from that because
Yeah.
I can count on getting
You
it
don't-
right every time.
you don't-
John 3:16.
I like Colossians 2, 9, and 10. It's just what I picked.
yeah.
You
You don't go with the Tim Hawkins.
Oh my gosh, it was that
Some-
story that put the
some-
fear of it in me there because I'm like, I think I know this reference, but man,
It could have been worse.
well, because there's those times you get just a brain
Yeah.
freeze, and I'm like,
And Ehud stabbed Eglon, and the fat swelled and engulfed the knife around.
yeah, that's not as bad as Tim Hawkins.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. That one's pretty morbid. Okay, so the topics that I hit, I'm gonna try to bring us back, are humility as like a Christian character that we should embody, honesty, and that not just being like tell the truth, but like I feel like in my own life, I'm still trying to develop what does it look like to be honest with myself and with the Lord. So like, I mean, in the context of the rich young ruler, he's like, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Like he's coming and asking a legitimate question. And Jesus is like, oh, you have to give up everything and follow me. And in that moment, he had to be very honest with that trade is not worth it to me. What I have, what my life looks like is, if I'm honest, more valuable to me than what following Jesus looks like. So that kind of honesty, and I feel like it can be very tempting to not be honest with ourselves when it's like, oh, am I struggling with questions about my faith? Am I in a dark place of struggle? I'm not going to show it. I'm going to try to suppress those as much as possible. But like, we need to be honest with ourselves so that the Lord can continue to disciple us and build us up. Poverty, and I chose poverty. Like the chapter title is "The Call to Poverty," and I'm being only a little bit like antagonistic with it and inflammatory because I think there's such a stigma with like in the evangelical church with being poor that you're not blessed by the Lord. And the Bible is so full. I mean, Jesus, when he announces that he is like starting ministry, when he's like, all right, I'm here, I'm the Son of God, he's like, I am coming for the poor, for the downtrodden, for the captive, and like his whole thing is like, I'm not coming for the like the
Well
people
off.
that are great and well off. Yeah, I'm coming for the least of these, and his kingdom has been built for the least of these. And like statistically, like if you just take globally, if a Christian, you just pull a random Christian out of a hat, they are probably a poor female in like a third world country. Like that is the largest demographic within the Christian faith. And so it's like, it is a kingdom that is for the least of these. And I think we have such a fear of poverty that it often keeps us from being generous and like taking real kingdom risks in life. So I wanted to hit that topic. Justice, because the whole topic of justice is very polarized right now. And there's been lots of really good Christian writing on the topic of justice. And I'm just trying to pull as much of that together as possible to present like a thought through new perspective that's kind of outside of the current bickering between political ideologies. And then the last like call to is patience, because I think we are supposed to be patient as believers.
How have Christian leaders responded to some of those teachings?
What do you mean? Like me teaching those
Or reading your book and their thoughts on it?
It's kind of frustrating. I haven't gotten almost any like actual detailed responses of people's thoughts of the book so far.
Okay, I'm gonna challenge.
Yeah.
This is my thought. I've
Yeah.
had these conversations with a lot of pastors,
Uh-huh.
and they don't try to scripturally debate me.
Yeah.
They know the Bible.
Yeah.
They know the call, but when they look at their congregation and their people,
Yes.
I see you're not wrong, Andrew,
Yeah.
but I'm not ready to.
Well, I feel for a lot of those pastors because,
Oh, oh.
like, yeah,
Strongly agree.
practically, if they start teaching those, the church goes away because the affluent people often leave, and the organization can no longer run.
Okay, yes, that's where like the I see the term pastor being more used as an organizational leader.
Yeah.
Like it's CEO. That's pretty much what the term pastor is pretty much used. Like, and so
Not biblically, but
not
in our-
biblically
in
in our culture,
practically,
in
yeah,
our culture practically. And so when we say the pastor, I see what's used that one word for three different things.
Yes.
There's the person pastor, the calling pastor, and the
Yeah.
organizational leader pastor. I think they're vastly different things.
Yeah.
And so when I talk to the person pastor, they're like,
Yeah.
It's so weird though, because like you and I, like we get what we just said. There's so many people going, "What did they just say?" Because it is like we've only seen it through the lens of our experience,
Yeah.
and we've never stopped
yeah.
to think
And-
or question.
Like,
it's not even just that. The amount of biblical illiteracy is
yeah.
I mean, most people, I would guess if you ask the majority of people to name all 66 books,
How about all 12 apostles?
name all 12 apostles.
Yeah.
To-
I
or-
guess my bet is like 85 to 90% are always going to forget Bartholomew and Thaddeus. Like, they are not getting remembered.
Well, I mean, it's not, and that's not like a shot on anything, but like I
Yeah.
think the American, we've kind of talked about this, enough, but like I think American Christianity is spoon-fed and dumbed down and simplified.
Yeah.
And the call, like you talking about the Acts 2, right? They'd have to be persecuted. For them, it was like, this is everything. This is
Yeah.
survival. This is who I am. Set like burn.
Yeah. Also, like in our modern context, we have like a bifurcation of this is my spiritual life and this is my like life. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
those ideas are not very integrated in that like first century Jewish context.
We trade.
There's no
I
bifurcation.
can't tell you how
like-
often people are trying to trade. They're like, okay, God, I'll give you a little bit more of my
Yeah.
personal life because I'm stressed and anxious and I want a little bit more spirit. Like, and there's like
Yeah.
a constant tug of war that never
Well,
seems to win.
And the Christian life is mostly their church life too.
Yeah.
It doesn't. cross out into the rest of the world. I mean,
Yeah.
you pray for your meals. That's what Christians do.
Mhm.
I mean, it crosses in those little.
Yeah, there is some crossover, but it's not. Yeah, it is seen as like my involvement in my spiritual life is at this location with this group of people.
At this time.
Yeah, at this time.
So that's why I'm interested, because, I mean, a call to poverty, I don't think you can. I mean, like, I've gotten arguments where people will quote 2 verses
Yeah.
to say that this is why Christians should be wealthy. There's a verse that says Jesus had a seamless robe.
Yep. Yep, they
And
really like that one.
They love that one.
They love
And there's
that
the
one.
verse where he had a money bag.
Yeah, they like those.
And because of those 2 things,
Yep.
Jesus didn't have. It wasn't foxes have dens,
Yeah.
and
He could have fed the 5,000 steak and lobster, but
he
Yeah.
decided
chose.
to
Well, and
instead.
like Jesus, like at the same time, Jesus wasn't destitute. Like he wasn't a beggar, but he had wealthy supporters,
Oh yeah.
but he was living off support. He wasn't like established, building his own wealth and
Right.
It yeah.
It wasn't his father's agenda for him. He was always doing the father's business, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. And it's not just like those donations had to support minimum of 12 people.
So, yeah.
Not to mention, like, how many disciples did Jesus have following him around? Like, more than 12.
Yeah.
Because he chose 12 from the disciples. So, like, there's a party moving with him that is also having to be provided for in a lot of ways. So,
Food is not cheap.
it's not cheap.
Okay, I think a call to humility, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I speak with
Yeah.
Christian leaders, people, there's so much about promoting yourself,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like that, and that's not
Well, okay.
doesn't mean you're not humble even
yeah.
necessarily.
I have an interesting question for you. How would you define humility, like biblical humility?
Biblical humility.
Yeah.
I would say it's not doing what you think is best, doing what God thinks is best.
Okay.
It's
So submission.
submission
Okay.
to as
Yeah.
like the biggest overarching, if I had to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a hard word.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so the way I'm trying to define it in the book is like I think oftentimes humility is thought about as having a low view of self,
Oh yeah, no.
but
Yeah.
like I think humility is truly like having an accurate view of your position or like your role or function within a thing.
I think it contrasts walking in dominion and understanding who you are, having
Yeah.
authority, which is how Jesus
Yeah.
spoke, and they recognized that
Yeah.
is not the antithesis of humility.
No.
Because he was like, I know who I am.
Yeah.
Walking in divine authority, having God's word and standing firm on those things is not the antithesis
Yeah.
of humility.
Yes. But you also like
He also
Jesus knew his position.
Yeah.
So in that, like, he did not take any of his divinity in that he was completely submitted to the will of the Father.
Yeah.
Yes.
He learned submission through what he suffered. I think that's the verse.
Yeah.
But you also have, like, the Pharisees coming and being like, should we pay taxes? Jesus is like, I know my position within just this structure of government which
Yeah.
I am situated. Yes, give to Caesar what's Caesar's. Like, he understood in every aspect, like, this is where I fit. And some of the examples I use, one is Moses, when Moses was first called at the burning bush. And he's like, oh, but I'm not great at speaking. Like, I'm not a good speecher.
eloquent.
Even though, like, he was trained by the Egyptians, who were, like, the cultural power of the time. So, like, he had the best education. I am sure rhetoric was a part of his education.
I
So,
could have
like,
had a speech impediment or something. That's what most people
yeah,
say.
there has been that theory put out too, but it's like he is giving as many excuses.
Oh yeah.
When contrast
I
that
was
to
like, you're an American. No?
yeah, contrast that to Mary, who gets the call to like birth Jesus. Like that would have been an incredibly stressful yes, because like the amount of like stigma and
Oh, my
shame she
goodness.
would have gotten for getting pregnant outside of
That
wedlock
story, I still don't have a grasp on that story.
Is
Someone needs to
like-
write a book on that story. Keep going. I'm sorry.
is like I can't think of a modern equivalent that I could face,
Agreed.
which would have been as like impactful to my identity and standing within a group. Like she could have lost her husband very easily.
Her life.
Yeah, she could have lost her life. And it's like, and she said, I am your servant, Lord, do unto me as you. And it's like, okay, that is her understanding her position and placement and like accepting and walking in.
I have been enamored with the story of David lately again. You know, I mean, it's just one that's so classic.
Yeah.
His family, his brothers, thought he was an arrogant little kid. Going, somebody needs to do something about this Philistine here.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because he had experience.
Yeah.
And he declared that, but he declared, I come in the authority of the King of Kings. So he's mocked and maligned by the enemy.
Yeah.
But he ran to Goliath with a sling and a stone.
Yeah.
You know, he did not. There was no cowering. There was. It's not arrogant. I don't think it was. It was a recognition of his God. And being in submission to Him, and that's, you got results to back it up. So it has so many different flavors.
Yeah.
Appearances.
Yeah.
I would be interested. I want to.
What?
I want
A book on the Mary story? Or?
No. I'm interested to hear. I'm sure you haven't gotten a lot of people come back with like, but what about this and what about that yet?
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear how people.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I love the chapter on poverty, and I was going, and because a lot of times you're bringing up one vantage point. I was like, there is a solid biblical vantage point for financial blessing.
Oh yeah.
It's promised in Deuteronomy. I mean, it's many places.
But I'm like
that. We get way more of that fed to us.
Yes, and like my book is this thick. It's so thin
My
that
kind of book right
Kindle. I had issues getting the cover approved by Kindle because it had a spine text, but the spine text has to be so large, but it's too large to fit on the spine of this book, so I don't have spine text. Like, it's not a big book. I'm not trying to make this like an expansive, this is how you should think of all the things. I'm just saying, like, hey, there's another vantage point to a lot of these things, and I want to give people like a taste, a little morsel that hopefully gets them just thinking in a different way about a lot of these topics.
I see the way that which I haven't read your book. I apologize. I will read your book. I promise you I will read your book.
I have, and it's very good.
Very rub it in my face.
Totally worth getting. In fact, I want to take a pause and do like a little commercial. Can I have it for a second?
In the middle of saying something.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I am interrupting.
Take a pause right while I'm going.
But he is launching this on November 19th.
Yes.
And want to ask everybody to how much are you going to be selling it for on Kindle?
The Kindle version's $9.99, and the physical copy is $14.99, I think.
And on the day you launch, it's going to be that price.
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't figured out how to do any discount programs yet.
So, just FYI, either way, it is going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. But I do know a lot of times you drop the price on that day because you get everybody to buy on that day. But I will encourage people, November 19th, it hits the Amazon, and get a copy. I will buy a copy that day because I want to write a review for you. That's an important thing for people.
Yeah, reviews are a big deal on the internet at this point.
When they write a book, write a review. If you've read Jesus Training Manual, I would love to get reviews from people. I was reading some the other day because we're launching this class, and some of them almost made me cry. And it was interesting because it was at some time I must have paid a service. Yeah. Because there were these people really read the book, and they were genuinely going, this book, like, this is how it impacted me and stuff like that. And it was really meaningful to me. And I saw a handful of names of people I know, and I know everybody that I know has gotten a copy of my book. But I want to encourage all of my friends to get a copy of this. It is my son. It is a well-written book, and it will challenge you spiritually. Commercials over. Back to the show.
And it's not a huge commitment. It's under 100 pages.
How many hours to read?
Depending on who you are. If it's me, it takes me like 5 hours.
Okay, and Anna, it takes how long?
Like 30 minutes. Like that, I don't think she reads all the words. I think
how fast she reads.
Oh my gosh! Like, she started a novel one weekend, and it was like, end of day one, she's halfway through the book. I'm like, how the heck are you doing this? I don't think AI could process this book that fast. Like, who are you?
Your mom and I both read novels like that. Novels are a little different.
Yeah, I sub-vocalize when I read, which means like there's a narrator in my head reading every word. So like I cannot go that fast. It's not just like sight picture, like picture of word directly inputs meaning. Like there's a little Philip narrating whatever I'm reading in my head all the time.
So you always are in audiobook form.
Yes, pretty much.
It's
Yeah.
always your voice.
I don't see how someone can disagree with anything you write in here and not sound like the rich young ruler.
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I guess I'm boxing people into a corner.
I see, and it's not an aggressive.
Yeah.
I have read a little bit. It's not an aggressive. It's
Yeah.
not an aggressive.
Well,
thing
I'm trying to take the stance in the book of like, this is me too.
Yeah. And it's almost like inquisitive.
Yeah.
The way
Yes.
it's kind of written.
Yes.
I don't see how things that people are fight against, try to find scripture when this is like when you're getting the whole picture. How do you not come across as the pride and not being honest with yourself and not seeking what's best for you and taking the easy way out? I see it as a really good resource. I really like it.
Yeah.
It's a really
Awesome.
That's why I'm interested to see how people
How people
respond
react to it. Yeah.
Or do they just say good book and
Probably a lot of good books.
Because
when I was about to finish, I was like, this is not a very marketable book. I was like, this shouldn't hit bestseller.
Francis Chan has sold a lot of books that are
That's true.
are not marketable because they see his life.
Yes.
They see the realness and they go, hey, I want the real thing. And this is, it's comprehensive of, I think, one of the more misunderstood, misquoted stories that pertains to most of Americans.
Yeah. And I have two more book ideas that are in my mind at this point, one of which I've started to work on, but there's another that I haven't started to work on, which is just like biblical study of like wealth, finance, poverty that I want to do at some point in the future if one of Dad's people in his master class don't do it first.
There's a statistic that I bet it's already been done. But the median income in America, I wonder what percentile of the globe the median income in America
it's 1%.
It's 1%.
Is it 1%?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of
You got to
the
think
entire
about
world population.
Think about India. India's a billion
Africa.
people, right?
Oh, it's
China.
like, oh, yeah.
India's a billion people, and the average median income there is like, I'll Google it to be sure,
And
but
what
it's
is the median
less than we make like
income
an
is
hour.
probably going to be less than a decent number of our listeners.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It would be interesting to know.
Yeah. Yeah, the median in like let me
Median
find
income
the statistic
in
real quick.
America
Let me find the
It's
statistic.
not as high as we would think it
That's
is.
in chapter 3. I skipped chapter
Most
3.
of us think of ourselves as
The
lower.
median income in India, which is 1 billion people, is $330 a month.
Yeah. Okay, so let me see. All right, in the United States, the poverty line, and this is as of 2002. So I couldn't find super up to date statistics, and I know these numbers are going to be dated at some point, anyways. But as of like 2002, United States poverty line for an individual in the U.S. is $13,590 a year. The poverty line for a family of 8 is $46,630 a year. Let's see, global poverty line is $784 a year.
A year.
A year.
I have known
year.
people.
Yeah.
You guys have been with me all over
Yeah.
the world, and the pastors make $350 a year.
Okay, read it again. Read it again.
Okay.
Read it again.
Look, I can also say it like this. If you're at the poverty line in the United States, you make 17.7 times more than somebody at the global poverty line.
100%.
So, and it's less than 1% of people in the United States live below the international poverty line. So, like, in the United States, less than 1% of people here are at the global poverty line.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's we are an incredibly affluent society.
Yeah, we don't even understand. We can't grasp
Yeah.
the idea of like real poverty. It's like for us, it's like, well, we can't afford
Yeah,
our
and like-
mortgage on our 4-2 and our 2 car
Yeah,
payments.
I can't hardly understand.
Yeah.
I've only seen it
No,
when we
you
were in
can.
Kibera in Kenya. Like, that is I think it's the largest or top 5 largest slums in Africa, and it's like I've seen it. I've walked through it.
Yeah.
I don't understand
Day
what
to day,
life
yeah.
is actually like in that scenario.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. I have
And-
a question. In the Amazon, do they even use money?
How did
Yeah,
that-
people use
When
money.
when you were back,
Yeah,
they
they'll
had.
still use money. I mean, they'll occasionally go into town to do trading because, like, they want motors for their boats. They want a generator for their village.
Okay.
So they will make, hammocks or mesh bags or
Okay.
something that can be sold in another market. They'll bring it in. They'll
Their
sell
median income is.
it. Oh, they live off the land.
Yeah.
They fish. They farm. Their economic structure is not
Is different.
necessarily money.
So how did that impact either of you guys? Traveling overseas,
Yeah.
seeing it firsthand. I remember Philip
Yeah.
with the bleach blonde fro
Oh yes.
in Kenya.
I mean, I will say
In,
that. Yeah.
in Ghana.
Ghana. Yeah.
In areas where they hardly ever saw white people.
Yeah.
You were like a neon light
Oh,
in
Probably
a
I
still,
dark
there's still
room.
people telling stories about you over around the campfire.
Yeah. There was a ghost. There was a ghost in our village. He had white
Kids
hair.
would like, Yevu,
Oh, yeah.
Yevu, Yevu. It was scary to you, too.
Oh, it freaked me out.
yeah.
Freaked me out the first time.
What did Ace Ventura? What was he called?
That's where I'm taking the 12 back.
It's so bad. I remember this, and I wish my mind was more filled with like Bible stuff. But it was a sequenzu ocha.
Every time I quote something that's sports related, I'm like, I'm wasting my life.
I think the weirdest I ever felt was when you brought home this huge bucket of Legos. And I was like, pulling out the torso of a Lego. I was like, oh, this is Luke
Yeah,
Skywalker from
I remember
episode
that.
3
I
or 4 or
remember
whatever.
that.
I was like, oh, this is Nightwing from the DC Dark. I'm
Okay,
like, I've never even seen the DC Dark series. I don't even. How do I know what this is?
I did not understand how you knew all that stuff.
I don't either.
That was crazy. Oh my goodness. No, that was weird. I remember kept looking at you like, what on earth?
What are you
Who
talking
are
about?
you?
I'm like, this is Ninjago. I don't remember which name it is. You're like, what?
What is Ninjago?
I was like, I don't even know. I felt like from the TV show Chuck, when he gets like the download
my
thing,
goodness.
and he just knows all the things. Yeah, I felt like that in that moment.
That's pretty funny.
Zachary Levi from Chuck.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, poverty. I know growing up, I never thought we were poor. Like,
Yeah,
I
high school, I thought we were poor.
yeah, why?
I don't know, because I had friends that had more money.
Yeah, yeah. I think by the time, I don't know, because doing mission trips, doing different stuff,
Yeah.
like by the
Yeah.
by the time I think I would have identified that we were poor, I had seen true poverty, and so I was just kind of like,
Yeah,
and I love research and I love numbers, and so like I looked up at
you
like
do love your statistics.
I love my statistics. And I don't remember how old it was. It was the first time that I saw like what the US government found you could live off of.
Yeah.
And it was like, it used to be like a family of 4 could live off
Yeah.
almost no money.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like even now it's like, they say a family of 4, I'll have to find it out. It's like $1,200 or $1,300 they say a family of 4 can live in the United States.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a mortgage payment. That's barely a car payment for a lot of people
Oh, yeah.
based on what you're focused on.
Yeah.
When you guys were young and I stepped out away from
Uh-huh.
American Christianity and just complete trusting in God, for 3 of those years we lived on, it was just around $20,000. I think a little bit over one
Yeah.
year and a couple like 22.
This would have been like 2007.
And we
10?
people
When
gave
did
us
this have been?
vacations.
No,
Oh,
way
yeah.
We
before
went
that.
to the
Way before
beach
that.
every
before
one of
that.
those years.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were given, I think, a 5.
I had a
car.
trampoline
Yeah.
and multiple pairs of shoes. Like the number of people without pairs of shoes is incredible.
I'll say this: now that I think about it, there were a couple of times that I was like, I don't like having to wear duct tape cleats to soccer games. I wish I could get a pair of cleats. That I do remember a couple of times
Really?
thinking
I
that.
don't remember having happened to duct tape?
I do
Was
remember.
it
maybe-
the cleats or the shin guards?
It was the cleats. My cleats had broken.
That had to be temporary.
Well, what's interesting, it actually happened almost every year. My cleats would break by the end of the year because we bought Walmart cleats.
Yeah.
And so by the end of the year, the cleat would come off the shoe, and I kept duct tape in my bag for every game because I knew at some
I do
point.
remember one of the most expensive presents, Christmas and birthday, was Andrew's shoes. Very often there was
the like custom design teal
my
one.
senior year in high school.
It was
yeah.
not once. It was numerous times because shoes as an athlete, but I knew
Oh, yeah.
that, so I was like, I was
Yeah.
on your side there because I
Yeah.
had played tennis, and man, I could burn through a pair of playing tennis
Yeah.
on a hard court. I could burn through a pair of shoes in about 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And the shoes
Yeah.
would look brand new, but
Yeah.
the toes sticking out.
Sticking out the bottom.
Well,
Yeah.
anyways, that stuck with me because I still wear my clothes until my wife throws them away because there's too many holes in them, and she's
Yeah.
like, "No, you can't wear that
It
anymore."
was
Yep.
it was easy to buy clothes for you though, because it was like
A Buccaneers, as long as there's a Buccaneers.
two outfits traded back and forth.
I don't get it.
A few, yeah, like Michael Vick.
Oh, yeah.
and
yeah.
somebody else too.
But I had to wear a Bucks jersey.
Yep. Always a Bucks jersey.
Yeah, I had another person
Well,
recognize
Michael
me.
Vick's wasn't Bucks.
I mean, we couldn't even afford a haircut for young Andrew.
I don't remember that.
No, I mean we could, but your hair looked just
Looked
like,
like
we
it.
couldn't afford a haircut.
Oh man. Yeah.
Your kids have the cutest hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I just let them cut each other's hair.
I heard about
You heard
that.
about that, right? I put them down for a nap.
Oh,
And, like, an
yes.
hour later,
Asher's cutting Levi's
I was
hair.
like-
or something.
I hear them. It's been a while. So I go in there and Levi's sitting on Asher's bed and Asher has a handful of Levi's hair. And then immediately Levi runs and jumps into his bed and Asher's like, "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry, Dad." And I like put on like an I'm mad face and I get out of the thing and I'm just laughing because it was just too cute. But we haven't even got his haircut since then because it's so
Really?
curly.
Oh
It's
yeah,
so-
you can't
even
tell.
tell.
You can't tell.
But it was it was a lot of hair.
Oh my god.
I was like, Sasha's gonna be very unhappy.
Okay,
that's funny.
that's amazing.
Yeah. No, I'm very much a minimalist still. Like, it
Oh, yeah.
pains me to pay for anything full price. I'm like, the garage sales will provide if we just are
Yeah.
patient.
We could do this all day.
The two of
Oh
us
yes,
talk.
yes you could.
But I could just sit and listen to you guys talk on a lot of different subjects. We could talk fantasy football, or we could talk.
Oh, I'm
You
so
won.
happy. I'm so happy.
saw Randy the next day.
My game for this year has been accomplished. All I have to do is lose the next game.
We're gonna talk about honesty. It was in your book.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, was your goal to lose every game until you
No.
got to Randy?
No.
Okay. Okay.
It was about week 3
about.
where I decided that was my goal. Because I was like, you know,
What?
And Randy was number one.
What happened?
Randy's
Like,
number
what?
one.
What's your fascination with Uncle Randy?
Okay, so here's the deal. Last year,
Yeah, I heard this. from
I
Randy.
was going, like, I wasn't doing well. I'm like, I'm going for the toilet bowl. All I have to do is lose
More than
to
Randy?
freaking Randy, who's the lowest ranking team. And I'm like, I didn't really check my teams. Like, I was like, this is going to be easy. And my players did incredible, and I blew them out of the water, even though I didn't have like 2 players. So Randy beat me and ruined my plans.
Oh my goodness.
So now this year, I was doing terrible. I hadn't won a single game for 3 weeks. And my team was falling apart. People were getting injured. And I was like, if I can lose to everyone but Randy, who's number 1, that'll just be a great story.
When
It'll
did
just
the
be a great
countdown to
story.
Randy begin? Isn't that what you named your team at the beginning?
At the very beginning, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Weeks till Randy.
Well, yeah, because
Yeah,
I
you
wanted to
prophesied
big
your team.
up something against Randy.
Yeah.
And it was about week 3 that I was like, I'm gonna lose every game except for the one to Randy.
Well, you
who's
so
number
far
1.
you've done it. You were 0-7, and then you just beat Randy.
And it was so satisfying when Randy changed his team name to I Lost to Philip.
Yeah.
So another subject.
Okay.
Is kids. You guys got kids on the way.
Yep.
You'll have number 3, a first granddaughter,
Yeah.
and you got a child on the way. What's
Yeah,
that
child.
been like for you? And then I'd love to hear your version of that too.
Oh man.
It's been
I
a
do
journey.
not have the standard we have a kid on the way story. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a year process at least.
Are you excited?
I am excited.
that's
Yeah.
good.
Oh yeah. I've got so many dreams for this kid. I'm gonna show them the world. I'm gonna teach them all the things. Like,
Like
I
that.
have all these plans that I know I'm gonna maybe follow through with 5%.
What's your like top 3 things you got planned for your kid?
Okay, top 3 things planned for the kid. There will come a time where I'm planning to have like a workshop developed for myself where I can just build fun things at home. Yeah. And there will come a time where I'm going to stop buying toys for the kid and just give them access to the shop after I have trained them on the 3D printers and the laser etchers and the computer systems and how to do Arduino boards. And I'm going to be like,
Mark Rober too.
I'm going to be like, you can have any toy you want, but it must come from your mind.
So they can build their own custom PS5.
Yeah, you can build your own, like, I don't know, laser guns for like laser tag. That's very easy to do. You could build your own video game. You could do, like, I want them to just have a mind that's full of creativity
My dream
and
right
have access to tools to make those things reality.
my daily dream right now is that my kids don't kill each other, stop cutting each other's hair, and eat at least one vegetable. That's like
Yeah.
pretty much. I'm thrilled if that's
Yeah.
what happens in a
That's
day.
why I'm like, maybe 5%. Your computer's about to die.
Oh no! I'm plugging it in.
So yeah, that's one of my plans. Now that I'm getting into writing, I'm going to eventually come up with some story that I'm just gonna like write their kids' stories for them. But yeah, I am also excited to raise them.
You'll turn them into little books.
Yeah, probably.
Oh my gosh, it's so wild. Like we had Baco
Yeah.
when you guys were kids,
Yep.
and Spidey.
Yep.
And Spidey ended up
Yep.
becoming a.
Bringing up all
And
my childhood.
and now with AI tools, I can make the animations for whatever
Oh my
I can
goodness.
imagine.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, like
do you use Canva AI to generate images and stuff?
I have, so with the next book that I'm working on, I have started using it so that I can also be developing like my own imagination of the like physical situations my character will be in. So it's like I'm developing a tool that I can use to help me write the story and be more descriptive of what's around them.
When you uploaded your book to Amazon, did you have to tell it that it was not AI generated?
I did. I thought
Isn't
that was very
crazy?
interesting.
Isn't that crazy
Yeah.
that that's the world we live in now?
Yep.
So
And I'm not sure if I lied or not because I did have AI go through and edit grammar, and I don't know if that counts as
that doesn't
AI
count.
generated
that doesn't
content.
count.
But
So you guys, it was not always an easy journey. Is there
No.
anything that you would speak to couples that are trying to get?
okay, yeah. So one, the first thing I would say to couples that are struggling with infertility, which is mine and my wife's story and journey, is like you are not alone in that. Statistically, infertility among men and women is going way up.
Oh yeah.
And and among men especially, and that has a lot to do with like the plastics in our foods and stuff that's in our physical environment that is negatively affecting our bodies. So I would say one, like it is like you don't be afraid or feel like you're the only one or feel shame, and that's very hard not to do.
Yeah.
Because like even in my processing all this, like there is something very seemingly core to like I am passing on my genetics that is not the case for me at this point. And that is like it's a weird thing in sort of our like modern context and imaginations where like, oh, we shouldn't care about, but like that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Saying like knowing I'm not going to see like physical features of me in that kid. Like that's a real loss to process through, and it's a weird thing to process through because like I feel like you're imagining is either like I will have a kid and see parts of myself in them, or I will not have a kid, not like I'm gonna be in this new situation. That's also different than
Adoption.
like a normal adopting a kid who is a newborn or 2 years old or 3 years old, where it's like I know this is another human being that needs a home and needs a family.
Yeah.
We did embryo adoption, so it's like there's an embryo that is genetically a part of two other people that are not my wife and I, that my wife will carry and birth and have that connection. And there's like, that kid could very well have physical features that look like Anna because of the way the embryo reacts with the mother's body, where like her body is giving certain inputs to that kid to make certain features happen still. But like to know, like it's even weird to say like none of me will be in that kid, at least in a like genetic form. Like that's a weird thing to have to process through. And who do you go to process that with? You know, like luckily Anna and I, our marriage counselors, went through an infertility journey and they did IVF, and so like I could process some of this with them. But it's still just like it's a weird thing to go through.
I would imagine it damages a lot of marriages, and I've seen you guys walk through that really well.
Yeah, and it like it's a very non-standard journey, but it is there are some things that have been really cool, like some of the resources we had to read that our clinic gave us are talking about, hey, you need to start thinking about this teenager right now, the teenager who's going to be processing what is my origin story, and not only what is it, who knows about it, who's been told, you know, like I want them to know the information of their origin story as early as possible so it's comfortable to them. But I also need to guard that story so that they can choose later how they want it to be shared, because they're a person, you know. Right now I can't totally imagine them as a fully formed person because they're not there yet. They have a long journey ahead of them before they're aware enough to start making those decisions of who's going to know this story, how do I want them to know this story. So it's like, it's weird because it's like, it's my wife and I's journey, but it's also this kid's journey that we need to guard certain information for their sake later on. So it's made me think about a lot more than I
That's crazy.
would have thought of at this point. So in those ways, it's also a little heavier because you're just like, how do I do this well now for them later and consider this other person who is not yet? It's different.
Well, tell us one more time about your book and launch date and how people can...
So November 19th, I'm pretty sure I'm getting that.
Yes.
November 19th, I Am the Rich Man, which is the title of the book. Subtitle is The Rich Young Ruler's Prophetic Call to a Modern Age. This book will be coming out, available on Amazon, available on Kindle. You can find the book currently, because it's not showing up on Amazon yet. If you go to IamTheRichMan.com, that'll take you to the site on our page that gives you more information. It's got a few endorsements on it, so you can just have a little bit of sneak peek into a little more of what the book's about. And come November 19th, there are going to be links there that you can click, and it'll take you to
everybody go
on Amazon.
Go to Moles on Mission and subscribe to their podcast, their newsletter, their anything else they can subscribe to.
We got the newsletter. So the I Am the Rich Man brings you to that website. It brings you to the books page. So if you just go there, you can find all the information about the ministry Anna and I are doing with Wycliffe and JARS, involving Bible translation. And you can sign up for our newsletter. You can sign up for the monthly podcast where we update people on our journey so far. You can hear my wife's music that she's developed and been part of producing. So,
is our song on there?
Yeah, you guys' song is on there. Also, my comedy routine is.
It is?
It's linked there.
Great comedy.
Under, if you go to sermons and such, on the website.
It's only available for those who donate monthly to their missions.
It is very...
And if you want to come to the launch event, it's going to be at Overflow Church in...
Are you preaching?
Pastor Chuck is going to interview the two of us. We're going to talk a lot about missions, what we're doing with Wycliffe, and then also a promo of the book. And I will have physical copies there if you want to buy some.
Oh. Very nice.
Yep.
Very good. Proud of you guys, both of you. And
I really enjoyed our road trip.
yeah, me too. So,
You
Andy,
wanna-
you want to close us
I was
out?
about to
Or
ask
Phil?
the poor old servant if you'd
The poor old servant.
the poor old servant.
There we go.
If he'd close us in prayer.
I can close this in prayer. Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for your faithfulness, for your patience with us, for your constant calling us back to you and calling us to a kingdom that's just so beautiful. And Lord, I pray that your work of redemption would continue and grow ever more in this world that we live in, and that we would get to participate in that work of redemption more and more every day. Amen.
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 As always, like, comment, and share the podcast. Go check out our online school if you want to become as amazing as Philip, who was discipled by Richard. And so, yeah, we appreciate you for listening.